What's up, guys? Welcome to G Whiskey. My name's Jeff. Now, this is a channel where I offer my thoughts and opinions on a specific whiskey, and if you stick around to the end, I'll be giving it a score as well. If that sounds interesting, hit subscribe down below. And with that out of the way, why don't we jump into our review? Today, we're looking at Glenmorangie 18-year-old. Stick around. So we're looking at a bit of a classic today. We have a Glenmorangie 18 with us. Glenmorangie is a Highland distillery, and it's actually one of the biggest players in the single malt scene. It's up there with your Glenlivets, your Glenfiddichs, maybe your Macallans as one of the best selling single malts in the entire world. It's something of a divisive malt. Some people absolutely love this brand and some people not so much. And of course, me being ever the diplomat, I fall somewhere in the middle there. I do like Glenmorangie. I think they have a nice house style. I've always been a fan of their 10-year-old. I think it's a really nice, very friendly, very approachable, very pleasant 10-year-old, a great budget go-to. And honestly, it's probably one of the whiskeys I've had the most of in my entire life for those reasons. When I was just getting started, I didn't have a lot of money, and that was my go-to affordable whiskey. And I still like it today. However, the rest of the range is a little bit more hit or miss with me. I think it's a great concept. It's a great idea. What they've done is they've released a series of whiskeys with different types of cask finishes. And all these whiskeys are going to be affordable, and they do offer a good representation of the kinds of flavors, kinds of profiles you can expect from said finish. So again, a little bit more hit or miss in that range, but very cool concept there. Anyway, we're here to talk about our 18-year-old today. The 18 is where their more premium range begins. I believe they're called their prestige expressions. The prestige expressions include a bunch of really old vintage whiskeys that are very expensive that I cannot afford. You also have a 19-year-old travel retail in there, and you also have that Signet or Signet. I'm not sure how to say that one. As for our 18-year-old here, this one is a finished whiskey, or at least it's a partially finished whiskey. It's been 15 years in American ex-bourbon barrels, after which 30% was transferred into Oloroso sherry barrels. So for those last 3 years, that 70% stayed in the bourbon barrels, while the remaining 30% got the sherry treatment. So not a traditional finish, but sounds good to me. I've always been a pretty big fan of the Glenmorangie house style. I find it very bright, very clean. I always get sort of like these orange creamsicle notes in there, sort of like marmalade and cream, which I very much enjoy. I also like a lot of their private editions, so they definitely make some good whiskeys. Why don't we find out if our 18 is among them? Why don't we hop into our review here, see what this whiskey's all about, and in the meantime, if you can kindly leave a like down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. So you're not likely to be very impressed here. Our ABV comes in at 43%. Nothing online about chill filtration, but we can assume that it is. Also, we know this is a colored whiskey. Now, I understand that Glenmorangie's one of the big boys, one of the big brands out there, and I can even accept when they put stuff like their 10-year-old, which is a very budget-friendly whiskey, at 40%. But when we're paying a premium price for an 18-year-old whiskey, a decent ABV, and some natural presentation, should be a given. So you can take a look at our unnatural color here. Packaging, they definitely went all in on the packaging. We have our big, bulky box there. I mean, it's bulky, but it's tasteful. We have a very nice bottle here. I like the shape of this bottle. You can tell it's a step up. You can tell it's a little bit more premium than their standard core range, which I do like. So yeah, it's a good presentation. I'm going to give it, 4.5 out of 5. Not much in the way of information for us. This is pretty bare bones. There's no cask information, no tasting notes, no specs aside from our obligatory ABV here. People always laugh about the big extremely rare that we've got on the label. Understandable, it's one of the least rare 18-year-old whiskeys in the world. But yeah, aside from that, I think it's a good look. I think it's elegant. Let's try the nose. Okay, so beautiful, mature, fruit-forward profile here. Start off with some peaches, some mangoes, some apricots. Definitely some sultanas, some red apples. You have banana nut pancakes. You have vanilla ice cream in here. You have orange blossom and sort of a bright, clean, oaky note. The sherry in here, it is pretty subtle, but well integrated. And the palate? Okay. Light texture. Very measured arrival here. Definitely more oak than we got on the nose, but never overwhelms. We got Manuka honey. We got this bright vanilla in here. There's neroli, like orange blossom. Fruity again, so we have those apricots. We have those peaches again. some dried mango in here, and rose water. And now the finish. Okay, we have white pepper. Quite a persistent white pepper. Never too hot, but very present. You have banana, you have vanilla in here. There's some orange juice, more of that rose water note, like a floral note in here. You have sandalwood, and you have some potpourri. This is a short to medium finish. So we've got some beautiful flavors in this. It's bright, it's clean, it's elegant, it's fruity. It's bursting with like these orchard fruit flavors, floral flavors, and you have that oak. It comes across very balanced. It's generally a very pleasant profile. So I actually think this is one of the better expressions from the Glenmorangie core range. However, this is a very light whiskey, and you know, depending on the day, I may or may not be okay with that. I have had sessions with this where it went down just fine. The lightness didn't bother me. Oppositely, there are days that I drink this and I'm just like, no, that's too weak. It's too watery. I want more intensity here. To be fair, that is true of most 43% whiskeys. Obviously, it would be better if you cranked up that ABV a little bit, gave more weight to the flavors. But I can say that as a whiskey profile, this one is very light. It's very elegant. It's very gentlemanly. So those lighter notes do kind of work with a lighter ABV. It kind of suits the whiskey, but nah, I mean, you still want more intensity. You want more flavor. But despite that low ABV, there is still plenty to love in this whiskey. It is a very mature whiskey. You get the full effect of those 18 years in oak. The oak in this is very present. It's very strong, but it's integrated. It's never overwhelming. There's nothing worse than an over-oaked aged whiskey. Luckily, that's not the case here. And I also like how the sherry in this is very subtle. You know, I often talk about how much I love my sherry bombs or these big, powerful sherried flavors in my whiskey. And those are great, but sherry doesn't always need to dominate a profile, and this is a great example of having sherry worked into a whiskey in a more subtle, more nuanced way. But the bourbon notes in here also get their chance to shine, as does the Glenmoe Spirit itself, so it does a great job of sort of integrating and balancing out all of its components. So in that sense, it's a whiskey that's kind of technically perfect, and as such, you do have people out there saying that it tastes very much like an engineered whiskey, which it is. But I couldn't care less how engineered a whiskey tastes as long as I like it, and I do like this stuff. But I should say that you need to be okay with a more gentle, more subtle profile. So if you're the type of person who's really into peat monsters or sherry bombs or cask strength everything, you're definitely going to find this on the softer side. And even I generally prefer bolder flavors. You know, a whiskey like this with a softer, gentler profile, that's going to take a certain mood for me to reach for it. You know, I'm pretty much always in the mood for something like a Lejeune or a Bunnahabhain. Super easy whiskeys to reach for. Something like our Glenmorangie 18 here. Yeah, it's a once in a while dram. Still, aside from being light, I can't really bash this one. It's a solid whiskey. My score here is going to be 87. I think it is one of your better Glenmorangie options, but, you know, it's a big brand 18-year-old that comes in a fancy box. Let's face it, this one's made for casual consumers first and foremost. And by casual consumers, I mean people who drink whiskey once or twice a year and call it smooth. And I'm not being patronizing here. Smooth can be a good thing, and you know what? Most people out there aren't into whiskey as much as you or I, and that's fine. But yeah, this is a whiskey that's made to appeal to the casual consumer. Luckily, it does have enough character, balance, and complexity that it can still appeal to the enthusiast. So yeah, it's not the best Glenmorangie in the world, but it is delicious stuff, really solid. You have some great flavors in here, and it is a refined, mature whiskey. In fact, this is more refined than you would expect from a big brand, affordable 18-year-old. So yeah, as I said, there's a lot to love about this whiskey, and it's definitely one that's worth recommending as long as you're okay with a gentler profile. Pretty good value on this one. This one is one of your more affordable 18-year-old single malt options out there, which is nice. This is an accessible whiskey at an accessible price. But I should say, where I live, this is similarly priced to some other Glenmorangies that I prefer. For example, the Alta, which is a 2019 release, came out a couple years back, but still pretty widely available here. For the money, I would get the Alta first. And this is actually pretty closely priced to a Tale of Cake where I live as well, but I haven't reviewed a Tale of Cake yet, so I'm going to keep you guys in suspense for that one. But compared to the rest of the Glenmorangie core range, more specifically those wine cask finishes, I do think the 18 is worth a bump in price. Those wine finishes, they're going to be louder, they're going to be sweeter, and yeah, they might be a little bit more fun than this one, but there's no denying that we have a quality, mature, refined 18-year-old on our hands at a very affordable price. So if my description sounds good to you, absolutely check it out. Alright, that's it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. As always, hit subscribe down below, click that little bell icon, and of course, smash the like. Now, I do want to hear from you. Have you tried the Glenmorangie 18? What were your thoughts on it? And finally, down in the comments, let me know what you want to see me review next, and I'll keep it in mind for my upcoming videos. Bye, guys.